Are you ready for the best damn radio show on the planet? Man Hour Nation, rise up.
You on the beat every time, no. I would like to personally welcome you to Man Hour After Dark. Say that while I bring you the host, Mike, Buck, and Cone. You know who's coming to the stage. Sports talk than what you about to hear right here. I second that.
Go. You know that it's us when we talking about sports. Giving you facts on the field to the court. Tune in, we need the support. 1 hour too short, then listen some more. On all your stations, not dropping no music. Stripes like Adidas, but Nike just do it. Down 4 in the 4th, we go for the win. Michael 2 seconds, we taking it in. Buck, Mike, and Combs, you know what's going on. Man, now we're After Dark, no LA, we the big spark. No 4th and inches won't cut short. Got the best talking, it's all sports. Buzzing more than buzz beaters. We coming live all through your speakers, go.
And welcome to the best damn sports radio show on the planet. I am your host, BC Brandon Combs. This is Man Hour. We are back, baby. Taking a week off. Has some personal things going on. Bucks has some work things going on. But we are back. If you have not yet done so, please click like, share, and subscribe on whichever platform you're watching us on. If you're watching us on Roku TV or on Belly Up Sports TV, and you like what you see, you can head on over to youtube.com/Man Hour. You can subscribe for as little as $2.99 a month. Become a member of Man Hour Nation or the Refs or whatever the hell Buck was trying to push. Once you're a member, head on over to manhourradio.com. Click on the merchandise tab. Get yourself some hot Man Hour gear. We got hats, hoodies, shirts, joggers, phone cases, much, much more. And now that I've tried to pay the bills, we got a great show lined up for you guys. We're going to talk. Brian Flores gets a job in Pittsburgh. Brian Flores gets a job in Pittsburgh. That blew my mind. We're going to talk some MLB lockout situation, which I know my co-host for the evening is all about. He can't wait for this sport to come back. Let's welcome my guy, my man, Soup Boss. What's going on, brother?
I'm waiting for that sport to come back so bad that it's a week after the Super Bowl, and I'm watching the Pats-Falcons Super Bowl, the greatest comeback. That's what I'm doing. I'm watching old Super Bowl football because I'm just so excited.
It's
for
tough.
The damn sport that I quit on, man. It's insane. It's insane. I don't know if the Patriots can come back from this. What do you think? Think it'll be a comeback? Or
I mean,
just as good as the comeback of 3 months off of the Soup Box, baby.
Look, Tom Brady does it again. I hate to spoil it for you, but he's going to do it again here in a little bit for you. He's going to make another comeback.
I love that. I love it. By the way, the little intro, that's so cool. The new intro, I loved it. But I've always noticed, like, you guys want me on this damn show, put something in there besides Chicago and that Go Pack Go bull crap in the beginning. Like, throw something. Throw a little Boston in there. Throw an F1 track. Throw in Monaco, a beautiful track. Not like the circle circle NASCAR track.
Buck makes these things, and some of these things, I'm like, what were we doing here? Like, he's got the freaking radio on there from the movie, and he's just like, and he comes on there like 3 times, and he got some girls like sports. Like,
Buck is like, yeah, the scenes he sees that he's like, yeah. I did do the hand gesture, below the camera. Trying to keep it clean here on my first day back in quite a while.
No, Buck, Buck does this thing, but sometimes I don't think he ever, really realizes sometimes what he's putting in there. Rule of the Jungle says, thought you guys quit the show. Javier says, goddamn best sports show on earth. God is love. I got 5 stacks in the Super Bowl. Maybe need to spend money on here. Hey, you can spend all 5 stacks on here, right here, Javier. All 5 stacks, put them right here on the Man Hour. We'll take it, man. We'll put it to good use.
I'll put stacks on the Man Hour here, and either you're gonna feel amazing or you're gonna know I just put this show in a blaze of glory. And at least when you lose all your money, it'll be a beautiful thing to watch just implode. So that's what they brought me out for.
Speaking of blaze of glory and implosion, we talked about this right before you came on. Brian Flores, man. So let's talk about this Brian Flores thing, right? So Brian Flores puts in a lawsuit against the NFL. It says that their protocols are racially biased, that they don't, that their interviews under the Rooney Rule are farces, which I don't know why anybody's surprised by that.
True. So at least he's doing something about it.
Yeah, I just don't understand why anybody's surprised by it, right? The Rooney Rule says no matter who you're hiring, you have to make sure you interview one minority candidate. So there's going to be some farce interviews, right? And there's going to be some people who, like, let's just face it. If Bill Belichick this offseason decided he wanted to become a free agent head coach and he wanted to go somewhere else, he would be the most sought after head coach. Am I correct?
Yeah, but you can't bring up Bill Belichick in this example because of the fact that Brian Flores wanted to call out some bullshit because he thought that it was crap and he called it out.
No.
Just like all the teams have called out supposed bullshit against the Patriots and Spygate and all this crap.
And that's not what I'm doing. What I'm asking you is if Bill Belichick becomes, he's the most sought after. So if I'm any team and I'm the team that Bill Belichick chooses and I'm going to hire Bill Belichick, I know I'm hiring Bill Belichick. But he's the only interview I've given to, and he said he wants the job. I still have to go conduct another interview, otherwise I get fined $200,000.
Well, you're talking to me. This is literally my career, my life, away from coming in here and giving us the ratings once every 6 months on the Man Hour. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You have to interview multiple people. You can't show a bias towards anyone. And so, like I just told you before I came on, I right now have 18 open hires in a firm of 200 people. Of people getting hired on where I work. We're growing like crazy. I just got a guy from Australia that accepted a role. I'm going outside of the country to find people, for crying out loud. And yet, though most of them I knew early that they were going to be hired, we have to interview other people because some of those, A, that I was like, this is the right person, didn't end up accepting the offer, or B, once I interviewed other people that maybe on paper or maybe based on experience or what we know through the network, which would be the Bill Belichick example you're giving, we actually looked at the other people and said, they're fitting more with the narrative of where we're going for. Not saying you aren't successful and you aren't amazing, but we saw something. We saw a next level up and coming. So now, of course, the Rooney Rule fits that interview other people and it shifts it into those of minority status and everything like that. And we can get into a big political jargon talk on that. But my problem isn't that the rule is there. My problem is that mindset right there is if I know who I want to hire, just let me hire them, as opposed to just saying, what's it going to hurt to interview 2 other people? It's not the end of the world because you never know. If you change your mindset to go, I know this is candidate 1A right here, this person, but these other 2 people, who knows? Who knows? They may blow us away. 8 times out of 10, 1A stays and they end up doing it. But there's 2 things. 1, 2 times out of 10, these other people end up coming on board with us where I work and they end up competing in the interview process and we take a shot and we go, and now they're successful. Or when 1A looks at you, Jim Harbaugh style, and goes, thanks, but no thanks. I thought I was going to come join you, but I'm not. Guess what? You have the backup individual. So to me, I don't know. I don't like, yes.
And not to cut you off here, but I see this comment come through. I just want to touch on it real quick. Michelle says, hello from Leroy and I. So Leroy is Michelle's dad. He's in the hospital recovering from surgery. So we just want to wish him all the best. And Leroy, we can't wait to have you back home so that I can, make you fall off the couch again. That's my goal.
Did you just threaten him?
I like to make him fall off the couch. He'd be walking around the house. He'll go to grab something, and I'll pinch a nipple. And he's 74, so he doesn't react real quickly. But he cracks up, and he loves it. So
or Leroy, he's just counting every single time you pinch his nipple, and right before his day comes, he's gonna have all of that combined on you, and you're gonna be around him, and like a bus of clowns is going to come in with like wax sticks and they're just going to beat you over the head 15 times as he slowly laughs himself into the afterlife. That's what I do.
Hopefully that's a long ways away. But getting back into it here. So the Brian Flores thing. So I'm just shocked that he got a job so quickly, right? You put in a lawsuit against an employer, and that's what the NFL is. The NFL is an employer, and you're suing them.
But he
And
didn't
now
sue the
you get it.
teams.
And what's that?
He didn't sue the teams.
Well, he sued the league and he called all of the owners racists.
But it's two separate entities.
Soup Boss, let me ask you a question. If I put in a lawsuit against your organization who you work for, and I don't know who you work for, but we'll keep that out of it. Whoever you work for, I'm suing the organization, and I say all of the upper management is racist. Are you hiring me?
Did Brian Flores say every single owner is a racist?
Look, no, he did not say that. Those exact words did not come out of his mouth.
Example. So we're talking. You can't. This is the problem with sports sometimes with us as fans, is that we get into these situations. We go, well, in my job and in my career, this is not our careers. The NFL is not a single head entity. Yes, NFL holds the highest power, and in the end, they're the ones running it. But all the owners run as separate entities, and then the Players Association runs as a separate entity, and then you've got dumb crap that happens because they have it set up like that, and you have the crap going on in MLB right now where we don't know if we're going to have baseball because they can't get over each other, and they got to see who's got the biggest penis in the negotiations. That's what happened. This is not how you and I have our work schedule, okay?
Yeah.
Or our work companies and everything. So he did not say every owner. He made a statement that there is a issue within the system of it, but he did not say every single owner. He sued the NFL. So him getting a owner and a team that looks at him and goes, you'd be a great fit for this, because I'm telling you, man, something happened. That was the biggest shock. You and me both were saying, like, how the hell did he lose his job?
I agree. And I, for one, and that's what I was going with. I'm surprised that he got a job so quickly because of the circumstances surrounding the lawsuits. Because to me, that's like, it's almost a conflict of interest if you think about it. Like, how do you follow suit with the lawsuit but still be employed by the league that you're like? I don't.
By the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I was right, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are a part of what organization?
In association with the NFL.
All right, but that's what I'm saying. He's suing the league in which he's working.
There are, for instance, when the league suspends and fines players, it's because of standards and rules that have been agreed on, not only by the owners, but the Players Association. So the league, even when they come down and they bring judgment on people, it's because the people underneath them, the owners, the players, the coaches have said, if you're going to do something, here's the rules. We're letting you be okay with it.
Yeah.
It's not even where the NFL, like the NFL is a powerhouse, 100%. But their job is to create the brand and expand the brand. And we're seeing them we're going to have 5 games in Germany. And we're looking at Mexico City and all this stuff, and potentially China. Like, that's their job. And their job is to make sure that the entertainment value, the fact that I'm sitting here watching a Super Bowl from, 10 years ago, the week after their big Super Bowl, that's what they want. There's a rating for NFL Network. Their job is to try to set the standards that are agreed upon by the teams and by the players associations and by the coaches. So within that, if there's a player or a coach that has a problem with it and it sues the NFL, that does not mean that they cannot still function within the lower system. Now, the NFL
should Brian Flores have had a bigger role? Should Brian Flores have been a candidate for more head coaching positions, or was being a defensive guy in Pittsburgh, defensive line coach in Pittsburgh, or whatever he's going to be out there, assistant defensive coach in Pittsburgh? Was that basically the, hey, here's your job, work your way back up job?
No, because I also think what I'm talking about with the systems, the owners of the Pittsburgh Steelers have made it clear they run their own ship. Like, they go against the grain on things. That's why they've had 3 coaches in 135 years. Like, they don't give 2 craps. They are a powerhouse within themselves. They are a mini NFL, just as the Dallas Cowboys are, just as New England Patriots have become, just as your Chicago Bears have. Like, even in losing seasons, they're still their own entity, their own powerhouse, their own brand. So I don't think that it was just, the Pittsburgh Steelers like, oh, here, take this so then you can work your way back up, but let's just kind of get you in and put this on the table. No, this is Pittsburgh Steelers saying, wait, no one's still giving him a head coaching job. Tomlin's not leaving. But why the hell do we not have someone like him on our coaching staff? Bring him in. Now, to your first question, should he have gotten more interviews? Yes, but that is where I think then the fear comes down to, because assistant jobs, lineman jobs, all these other
Right.
jobs are still a step below the head coaching job. And the head coaches usually are very close to the owners, who are then very close to the NFL. That's where the connection was. So that is where I do think, because of the lawsuit, he lost out on interviews because there was hesitancy because of the lawsuit. That's where your original question comes into play.
The other part of the lawsuit in which he is claiming is that the owner of the Miami Dolphins offered him money per loss in the season. Now, one of the questions that I posed on here, but I haven't heard it asked anywhere else, even of the interviews I've seen Brian Flores do, is did he take the money? Because if he took the money...
He said he didn't.
Huh?
He said he didn't.
Okay. I haven't heard that personally, so maybe he did. I just haven't heard it.
He said in a conversation that he didn't, that's not what he was about.
So then if he didn't take the money, then yes, I believe he belongs back in the NFL. I kept saying, because I hadn't heard it yet, and I didn't hear that from him in an interview, but had he taken the money, I believed he shouldn't have been back, because I don't want a coach like that. If somebody can come to you, who's to say you're not the head coach of a team, and I want you to win, and you go to the Super Bowl, and now somebody from Vegas or some shark comes and offers you $6 million to blow the Super Bowl? How do I know you're not going to take it?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I'm glad he didn't take the money, because I think Brian Flores is a damn good head coach. When he got fired in Miami, I was hoping that we were going to give him a shot here in Chicago. I was. And that's the other aspect of this. We talk about, the NFL, and we talk about the Rooney Rule, and I've said that, you're going to have some farce interviews. Do you believe that the NFL needs to change its policy as far as, do they need to force the hiring of more minority head coaches?
No, they don't need to force that. And this is where the aspect of culture and standards and environment, when companies decide to just force it instead of embracing it. So we're not going to bring my company's name into it, but a big thing that we've looked at is embracing diversity standards. I live in the middle of Oklahoma. It is prominently white and Hispanic. There is very, very little African American or Asian or any island style individuals here. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean they're not here. That doesn't mean we can't go out and find those individuals to bring into our company, not to follow so we get a percentage of diversity mix, but to understand their walk of life allows us to be different. In my company, my firm, we have 7 market sectors we work in, where the design element, I'm in an architectural and engineering design firm. What we do on a local, national, and sometimes international scale is to provide designs that speak to the people, that culture. If everyone is in that building is from Oklahoma and they're all white, when we do a job like we did in Puerto Rico, it's going to speak to no one down there if we don't have someone that understands and that culture. That's why architecture students go to Europe, to understand building structure of a different kind that aren't in our own backyards. It's understanding other type of ethnicities and nationalities. So if the NFL had just said, listen, there's an advantage to having people from other backgrounds, from other walks of life, that have seen things differently, that wasn't in just private school type of situation. Not saying before anyone gets mad at me, not every Caucasian coach and player went through private school. I'm just saying, let's get individuals who've come from every walk of life, from the backwoods type of towns to the big cities to everything. And when you do that, you realize you get a full mixture. And then when you embrace that mindset of, my team will be better if I've got a little bit of everyone on it, we'll succeed more. And then we all play to the same standard as a team, then it'll work. And if the NFL had done that and said, this is how we're going to embrace it, this is how we're going to make change, but for the better, for all of us, for me, for you, all around, that would have transitioned into where now when you do interviews like we do 3-4 interviews for one position when you get it down to the last couple. And usually there's a mix of different backgrounds, where they came from, everything. But the NFL instead just said, oh, shoot, we need to make sure that we don't, because we're super big and we're a big corporation. We need to make sure we don't get in more trouble for this. So we're going to create a rule. And that's where the Rooney Rule is a failure, is that it wasn't embracing change through changing your culture and environment. It was saying, you need to make sure that when you go through this process, do this. And it puts a wall in front of the minds of the individuals who are forced to adhere to that rule because they don't think they're doing it to better themselves and their team. They're thinking they have to do it because it's forced on them. And that's the issue.
Yeah. And look, we said this last week, when Buck and I talked about it, and I said, we talk about the percentages, and I listen to the Bias Network over on ESPN and Fox Sports and all that because they all go off of whichever way they swing politically, and they're stuck on those visions, and they talk about those visions, and they stay on one side of the fence, and they're like, oh well, we need to have 73%. There's 73% minority players in the league. Why don't we have 73% minority head coaches in the league? And there needs to be some equality there. And my argument is that, well, if that's the case, then why don't we just go 50-50 on players, 50-50 on coaches? If you're going to try to force it, why are you 73 one way, 73? It's not about that. It's about who fits your scheme better. It's about who runs the show the way you want them to run the show as an owner, as a GM, who fits your team to a better situation, regardless of the color of their skin. Who is a better option there? I pined for Eric Bieniemy in Chicago since before the season started. I said, with Justin Fields, I want to see Eric Bieniemy in Chicago. Well, we hired Ryan Poles from Kansas City. I said, well, they're probably going to hire Eric Bieniemy. They're coming from the same organizations. A minority GM didn't hire the minority head coach from the organization which he just left and had a relationship with. So to me, that's what volumes. Maybe he doesn't believe Eric Bieniemy is the right fit. And instead he hires, Matt Eberflus. I don't know much about Matt Eberflus. Maybe this guy's the right hire. Maybe he's not. But you can't get it right every single time. You're not going to get it right.
No, you never can.
And not only that, but you just because Matt Eberflus is white and Eric Bieniemy is black and Matt Eberflus got the job, it's not because of the color of his skin. It's because that's who Ryan Poles thought was the better fit for what he was trying to do here in Chicago.
And you talk about the GM being a minority, GM in that aspect. And what he did was go out and, like you said, he hired someone who's of Caucasian and not minority. But the reason why is because he probably understood, coming from a different type of background, I'm going to interview a bunch of different people. I'm going to interview people no one's even thinking of. Like who he got. Like, he's going around different places. The problem is like with your Bill Belichick example, is that teams, if they go, that's the best coach ever. Coach K, for instance, let's say with him saying he's going to retire, even though he said he was exhausted, it's not going to happen. He's definitely not coaching after this year. But let's say a big school was like, we're going to do everything to get Coach K because we have a vacancy. They're going off of this big element of what Coach K's success is without not realizing it's beneficial for you to also interview people from different backgrounds in different areas, because the great next Coach K is maybe sitting right there that no one's looking at because everyone's looking at one player. And so that GM in Chicago he said, I'm going to interview a bunch of different people. And no one balked at it when he hired the Caucasian coach. But it's when there are owners, and it's known in the league by players, by certain GMs. It's rumored about where owners just go, no, I want that coach, period. That's a decision. Make it happen because they've been successful. And then that's all it is. The interview process becomes a farce because that's all they're doing. Instead of saying, that's my number one target, but let's freaking interview a bunch more people. Let's do it. I want my mind changed about that being the number one target. Show me someone that can blow my socks off. And when they do that, what I think happened in Chicago, and when everyone in the league does that, they can actually take that rule, the Rooney Rule, push it out of the way, and just go, we don't need it. Why? Because our environment has changed. But until they do that and embrace it, we're going to have these issues because it's a rule, and people like to resist rules, and people don't like to be told what to do. And when they're doing it with a freaking chip on their shoulder, like old bunch of grumps.
And one of the other things that I brought forward, and I want to get to this before we move on, because I feel like we could talk about this all damn night. We could make a whole show about it. But
it's shocker. We have a whole list of things to talk about, and yet we're just going to go off base. Who knew that was going to happen, Combs?
Right, exactly. So I don't know why I waste my time when you're on the show with even doing a rundown.
I even told you.
I don't.
Why
Yeah, I
waste
know.
your time?
I know.
Give me 3 things, and we'll just go for it.
Yeah. But anyway, so I brought out, I went in there and I started looking deeper, right? I started looking at, all right, what minority head coaches have there been in the NFL? How successful have they been in the NFL? And since the Rooney Rule, which was put in place in 2002, there have been 23 minority head coaches in the NFL. 2 of them since that time have a winning record. In the history of the NFL, there's been, I believe, if I remember the numbers correctly, I believe it was 31 or somewhere around there, NFL minority head coaches in the league. 5 of them in total have had winning records. So
I think you're on a slippery slope here.
No,
I think you're on a slippery slope because you're talking statistics based on. I understand you're saying it since the aspect of the rule. But do you honestly think, before you look at the statistics, that there have been minority head coaches hired because an owner is afraid of getting in trouble because of the rule? Do you truly believe they've picked one? I don't. I think because at the end of the day, the owners are going to do what they want, and that's why there's this issue with the rule, right? Because they're not being shown why they should just open their mind.
Yeah,
just saying, so all of those minority coaches have been hired are not because of the rule. So their lack of success isn't because they were forced into a hire in any way, just like the white coaches or any other coaches that don't succeed. It's because a team, interviewed them and hired them. And they like freaking Joe Judge has his team running on a 3rd and 9, running a QB sneak. That was a head coaching call that just was a joke. And he's whiter than I am, for crying out loud, which is amazing that anyone can be that way.
Well, and that's the thing that, that's where I was going to, because a lot of the minority head coaching, and I got into it with somebody on Facebook about this, was, they're pining for, some of these guys to get jobs, like a Mike Caldwell, who, let's just face it, Mike Caldwell might be the most successful out of all the minority head coaching candidates that there are. I mean, he was a perennial winner pretty much in Detroit when he was there.
He was.
And then you look at, there's other guys out there. I know people were talking about who's the defensive coordinator over there in Buffalo. I know my guy Alpha Rob here, who's watching the show, loves to get rid of him. I can't remember his name, but I mean, that guy was I think 30 or 40 games under 500 as a head coach. Then you had
Leslie Frazier.
There you go. And then you looked at the minority head coach who did get hired in Houston, which was my guy here in Chicago. I mean, but look, when he was in Chicago, he had a Hall of Fame defense. I mean, you had Brian Urlacher, you had Lance Briggs, you had Peanut Tillman. They were good. They were a really good defense. That defense took them to that Super Bowl that year. They won 4 games without an offensive score. It was ridiculous. But then he went to Tampa Bay, which didn't have a great roster, and he went 6-24 as a head coach in Tampa Bay. And when he's going to Houston, he's getting a closer roster to that Tampa Bay team than he is to that Chicago Bears team. I don't feel like that was a great hire. I felt like there were other candidates, like an Eric Bieniemy, other candidates who could have had an opportunity than to have Lovie Smith go there, and a guy who did win in Chicago, but again, he had a different type of roster, and you're not getting that when you go to Houston.
But you
give somebody else a chance, right?
But we don't have here's the other thing that's based on, and I know we have sources leak things here and there, blah, blah, blah. But based on law, you can't be pressing out what happens during the interview process. We don't know if Lovie Smith was their first choice. We don't know if he was their second choice. He was a part of the coaching staff, which, by the way, speaking of not aging gracefully, that poor man, you could tell he went to 2 just terrible rosters. That man just looks like he aged like
he went to the University of Illinois and destroyed that program.
Oh, I feel so bad for Lovie's health after seeing him. But we don't know if that was Houston finally going, crap, all the coaches we wanted to either took a job somewhere else, they declined us. Well, Lovie, you're on our team. Let's bring you up. We don't know. We don't know that. And that's the thing, though, is that sometimes too often, not just for those who react, but to those that are on the front line saying like, "Oh, you didn't hire this coach." That's
well, on the flip side of the fence,
that the coach didn't turn to the team and go, "Hey, thanks, but no thanks." The team can't come out and go, "He declined us."
And on the flip side of that is Byron Leftwich gets offered a job in Jacksonville and says, "Nah, I'll only be your head coach if I can choose my own GM."
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's what.
What?
And now he let that be known on his own accord. But I guarantee you, if he hadn't said anything, Tampa Bay would have just said, "We went with another candidate." Like, they're not allowed to say why it is unless the candidate says it. But there's another example of a minority coach who was given an opportunity and he said, "No, thanks." So we don't always know the stories, and that's because it's protected under law. When I put these codes in why people either don't get an opportunity or decline us or withdraw or accept a counteroffer, they have to be under codes. And I get audited by the Department of Labor and Veterans Association, and for minority things and everything. We have to put codes to them, because if anyone breaks in somehow through our security, we can't type out why. Now, if you find a way to figure out what the codes say, you'll eventually figure it out. But any regular person, just if I showed you all the codes for everyone that didn't start with us over the last 3 years, you look at them and kind of be like, well, okay, sure, Soup Boss, this sounds great. Okay, you can hire these people. And I can't tell you what they mean or why. I can't tell you why. Unless they come out and go, "I want my own GM. Screw this crap. I ain't taking a job unless I get to do what I want to do." Well, now we know why you didn't take that job or why you're not coaching. So that's the thing. We always, and that's what we do. We try to assume, or we try to come up with the narrative, right? And that's what we're on this show for and everything. But sometimes with head coaching and hiring, people react too much when they don't even realize you don't have all the information. And by law, unless the candidate comes out and says it, you don't have a right to know the information. So don't get mad. Don't get so emotional. Yeah. Don't be. Ask the candidate. If the candidate says, "I don't really want to talk about it," then just let it be. You don't have the right to get pissed off.
Understood. Well, we're going to move on here. We're going to go to a quick break. Before we get to break, if you like to collect autographed sports memorabilia, check out 3 Guys Sports Collectibles on Facebook. Prime gear in the breaks at great prices. If you're looking to sell, buy, trade, this is a place for you. Become a member today. Tell them Man Hour sent you. We'll be back. Give us 3 minutes, something like that. However long this video goes.
Hey gang, it's Commissioner Cooper from TSS Fantasy. We are the fantasy show of the people. That means we give the people what they want. Expert fantasy advice, leading medical and legal analysis, free contests, and innovative games to keep you entertained. Watch us live with the Tiki Live app on the Belly Up Sports channel, subscribe to us on YouTube, or follow us on all social media platforms. Visit TSSFantasy.com today for all the latest updates from the fantasy show of the people. We put the fun in fantasy.
Yeah! I use mayo over sour cream, yeah.
Right. That's because you have high cholesterol. Okay. If you drafted Julio Jones,
you got ghosted.
This is amazing. TSS Fantasy is like an orgasm. If I had a cigarette, I'd smoke it. I'm pumped to be here. This is the show of shows.
TSS Fantasy, the fantasy show of the people.
I want to be the best in the game, invest in my name, check no restraints, I'm obsessed with the pain, I ingest, I retain, assess and I change, possessed by the thought I'll be free one day from society's restraints, money, clout and fame, mud, disease, a plague, we all love to hate, have to play the game, have to make a name, all our insecurities are on display. This is war with the enemy, think that it was meant to be, living in a time where disease is on every screen, I won't let them fester me, I know most are festering, negativity is a plague for the mentally weak, no mercy, all I got is working, never stop searching, never quench the thirsty, I'm toxic and psychotic, with this logic, you can't stop it, it's been chronic, since I was a boy, so neurotic and chaotic, go! To last with the webs I'm weaving, I could change the past with all I'm achieving, got my foot on gas, never stop competing, if you break like glass, then this life's gonna eat 'em.
All right, we are back. Welcome back to the best damn sports radio show on the planet. I am BC Brandon Combs.
It's tied the Falcons. Tom Brady just brought him back from 28-3, Combs. Let's go.
Like you knew it wasn't going to happen. But if you guys are listening, if you have not yet done so, please click like, share, and subscribe on whichever platform you're watching us on. We appreciate everything you guys do for us. We appreciate all the comments coming through. Like Alpha Rob, who says, who Leftwich think he is? I agree.
That's why he doesn't have a head coaching job. You're right, Alpha. That's why.
I mean, you rode Tom Brady's coattails for 2 years, and now all of a sudden you want to pick your own GM. I don't get it.
Tom Brady has great things to say about Byron Leftwich, and he's showing a great passageway. But you don't even have head coaching experience to be making that type of demand. That was ridiculous.
Rule of the Jungle says this song low key goes hard, and the song in the break. It does. It low key goes hard. So do I. That's how it rolls.
Listen, okay, you talk about tweaking nipples, and now you low key go hard.
Well, because we're about to talk about baseball, Soup Boss.
This is literally like hanging out with Buck and our dang messages that he needs to get laid.
I'm not even touching that one.
I'm single, for crying out loud.
Not even touching that one. All right. So MLB, no shocker, still on lockout. They had a meeting the other day. It lasted about 15 minutes before the MLBPA called an end to it. They were not excited about MLB's proposal about shared revenue. So they're set to meet every day this week. Do you believe they get a deal done?
No. They're not getting a deal done. You and I are the old guys here. Luckily, if we have anyone young enough that's going to listen to this, they'll not know of the lockout in the early 90s. It's the same damn crap. And I literally put a post on Sports Soup. I'm done. I will track the Red Sox. I'll track the records. I'll read the headlines. And I'll watch it in the playoffs, because the playoffs, of course, are always amazing. But this is like, you're talking about a sport that has plummeted from first to second to third in our nation in a couple of years. It's made a joke of the Hall of Fame scenario when MLB took full advantage of guys like Bonds, McGuire, and Sosa, and then turned their backs on them because they refused to put them in the Hall of Fame, which hurts the fans who are like, we don't give two craps. This is why we watch. It's what saved the sport. And then it's just, and it's more on MLB to me than the players and everything, but they're all just, they're just at a point where I want the most. I want the most. There's no element of negotiating. There's no aspects, it seems like, based on everything I read, of, okay, let's take this part and shift it to here. What if we did this? What if we gave you this? Would you do this? Here's the plan we're presenting. Nope, don't like it, negate it. Well, here's the one we're going to tell you we want. No, we don't like that. Like, it's just them coming forward, each side, with what they want or what they want it to be. And that's why they're lasting 15 minutes. It's because the other side's sitting there looking at it, reading it over, and goes, no, that's garbage. We don't want that. And they leave. 15 minutes. 15. I can't even take a crap half the time in 15 minutes. These guys are walking in on a major sport that's barely beating hockey right now. And I love the NHL. And for crying out loud, they're just like deciding they're just going to bitch and moan about it. And then you've got them saying we're going to push back the games this year. And then the players come out.
Well, they haven't said they're pushing back games. They're pushing back spring training. They have until March 1st. They give them a March 1st deadline. Say if we're don't have a deal by March 1st, we're going to have to delay the start of the regular season. That's when MLBPA says, all right, well, we're willing to meet every day this week. So
and then no, but what was the initial response? It's ridiculous that you would do that. The initial response is ridiculous to make that statement. This is two quabbling, like husband and wife or whatever you want in a relationship, that just refuse to give an inch. And when one person says this is going to be best for the situation, the other one is just going, well, that's stupid. That's bull crap.
Do you know what the arguments are about? The main arguments. I know a lot of it, some of it's trivial and they'll get past that stuff. But do you know what the main sticking points are?
There's a lot of sticking points, but at the end of the day, it's just who gets what percentage of money.
So Major League Baseball players want to be paid they don't want their service time to be 7 seasons long. They want to be able to get paid in their prime, because let's face it, by the time a Major League Baseball player, an average Major League Baseball player, gets to the show, he is about 24, 25 years old. By the time he gets out of college, goes through about 2 or 3 years of minor leagues, he's about 24, 25 when he gets to the show. After 7 years, he's 32 years old. So he's no longer in his prime. He's at that point, if you're a great player, then at that point, you are on your first contract and you're probably going to get a big deal, right? But a majority of players aren't at that stage. So you watch guys like for me, obviously I'm a Cubs guy. I watch, Chris Bryant win a Rookie of the Year, then win a World Series MVP, win the MVP of the league, and win a World Series. And he only got paid $750,000 that season. And I know that most people are like, only $750,000. To us, that's a lot of money, right? But to the numbers that these guys generate in revenue, that is not a lot of dollars. And what their business calls for, it is not a ton of money. So I completely agree with the players on that aspect. The other point that they're arguing is that they want shared revenue. Like, if they generate so many dollars, they want a bonus pool for guys who are still in their service time, who go to arbitration every year. They want a bonus pool of $100 million in there for those players who are in arbitration to spread out, not like $100 million per player, but they want to spread it out around the league. And Major League Baseball countered with 5. It went from 100 million. Baseball said, "Yeah, we'll give you 5."
And then what did the players do? Did they say the players? So let's do 95. Yeah. Was there any?
No, the players did. They came back down in their money. They came back down in their money. And Major League Baseball, since that, there has been a lot of Major League Baseball has said, "Look, we're willing to restructure arbitration. We're willing to restructure this." The one thing Major League Baseball hasn't budged on is the bonus pool. They still don't want to give up more than $10 million in the bonus pool. The players it started at 105, went down to 100. Now the players were at 95. And for players that generate, and let's just face it, I don't know about you, Supas, but how many times have you bought a ticket to go see your favorite GM or your favorite owner? Like, they generate their revenue, and I get how business works. I get it. The owners are the owners. They own the team. They're going to make a majority of the money. But for these players that are generating in low markets about $1 billion per team per season, to ask for out of the, I don't know, whatever it is, let's say 30 teams, let's say it was just, let's say it was half, let's say $15 billion. They want $100 million of that. That's not a ton of money to ask for guys that you aren't giving anything to until they're 32 years old. So I'm with the players on it. I understand where the players are coming from. I'm not like you. Now, you say you're done watching the game. I heard today on somebody put on Facebook, they said, until we take a stand as fans and we don't go to the games and we don't watch on TV and we don't buy a ticket, even if we just do it for 1 week, opening week, nobody goes to a game, nobody watches on TV. I chimed back in and I said, look, you guys could do that. And if it happens, that'd be great. It'd be a great movement. Maybe owners would listen at that point to the fans, because baseball does a horrible job of listening to its fans. They've always have. But if you do that, I'm going to watch because I want to see it happen. So guys like me are still going to watch the game. I love this game to my very core. And I get where people are at. And I get that people are frustrated with the size, but I think that a lot of people, and you're not one of them, because I know you're a very smart guy. I know you understand the business side of the game. So it kind of surprised me when you said that, to be completely honest with you.
No, it's kind of, you're surprised, but if I were to give a percentage of what I thought, what side you would be on, it would literally be on the player side, because of the fact that you made that statement of how many times did you go to a game and you went there for your favorite GM. That's a baloney way of trying to create a tunnel or a small needle eye viewpoint of this. Because,
who generates the revenue?
Because
then, boss?
hold on. Because who are you going to act like Theo Epstein wasn't a huge hire for you for the Cubs and you weren't excited about it and you didn't ever react to anything he did in terms of signings or anything like that? Or
I react all the time. That's what fans do. We react.
You react and you celebrate. And you yourself has sat there and stated how Theo Epstein helped to break the curse and brought the championship. So the GMs are under just as much aspect of pressure. I know, yes, I don't have a Theo Epstein Sox jersey sitting in my closet right now. I get that. But let's not sit here and act like the coaches and the GMs and everything like that are still not a part of the game in which fans understand and are talking about every time in most Major League Baseball cities where there's a bad trade or a bad contract. No one's sitting there and trashing the other players or not going the game. They're going online and they're trashing the GMs about the job they did or the draft picks because the coaches or GMs are making it. So let's not pretend like the coaches and GMs are not an impactful part of these things. They definitely are. I get it. And I get your aspect about the Chris Bryant thing. But let's also remember there are ways in which if you feel that you deserve to get paid, that you ask for more of it. And we see it all the time. This is not a scenario that you brought up, that there aren't players that have renegotiated contracts all the time. Doesn't mean they always get them renegotiated, but there's a ton of young players that have them completely shifted and renegotiated so they make a ton more money.
But
when you sign the initial contract, and I'll give you in the city of Chicago, Big Hurt said it all the time. They asked him, why do you only sign 1-year contracts? And he said, so then I can be in control of knowing what I should make the very next year. And that's what he did. And now, of course, 1-year contract doesn't give you long-term guarantees. And I know you're playing a game. Me choosing where I work now was less financially than 2 other firms that wanted to bring me on when I was looking at offers. But there was other scenarios and elements that I took into play. And the players are doing that too. That's why you have agents. Agents are a part of the game. How come the agents aren't renegotiation on these contracts? To me, there's so much that goes behind the scenes besides these one ticky-tack elements. There's so many of them. But to me, at the end of the day, it's just who gets more of the pot. And while these two sides are arguing about it, I'm not going to watch regular season anymore. And that doesn't mean that fans aren't going to still fill those stands. I know they will. In fact, I hope kids still do. I hope there are parents that still bring their kids to these games, especially if the cost of tickets go down because less people go. Fill them up. Get kids into this. I don't want to see the sport die. But I'm sick and tired of the element being that these two sides can't come together and you're backing the coaches. But I'm not backing either. You're backing the players. I'm not backing either side, Combs. This is garbage for the fans. We're sitting here watching mom and dad go through a divorce issue, and none of them are looking at us, the kids, and saying, what about them? How is this affecting them? They don't. They don't care.
There are some times where I do support the owners, and I do support the GMs, and I do support the business side of things, right? Because we'll go right back to Chris Bryant, okay? Yes, I believe in those couple of seasons, he deserved to be paid more money because he was playing as one of the best players in the game, and he was getting paid $750,000.
He deserved a raise.
Since then, he's been chronically injured, and he hasn't performed at the same level that he was in those first 2 years. So, in that aspect, you kind of look back now and you're like, well, had they given him a long-term deal for that much money, right now we'd be questioning, was the contract worth the money? And I get that point of it. I do. But you've got guys capitalizing on it in every other sport. No other sport does a team have control over its players for 7 years. And baseball players, they have the longest road to getting to the show, as they call it.
Oh, 100%.
So
that's why them giving the minor league players pay is nice, but it's still not. I mean, it's still not enough. It's insane.
And that's why I'm with the players on this, that they need to be able to make. I believe that you should have a 3-year rookie deal. I do. A 3-year rookie deal in Major League Baseball, and then after those 3 years, you're in. Why?
I don't disagree with that whatsoever.
Oh,
at all.
I thought you said I do disagree with that.
No, I don't disagree with it. In fact, I think It's so crazy. I don't understand. Here's my point of view. Why are there minimum terms set to every player in every sport in which they come in as a rookie? Why?
Yeah.
Like, if you're getting to a professional sport, I don't give two craps. You are one of the luckiest individuals in the face of the earth, no matter what sport it is. If it's freaking the professional lacrosse or water polo league, you are one of the luckiest people on the face of the earth. You get to play a sport for a living. And that team has to pay you. And your skills that you produce with should determine, this is where now I do bring it into the real world with like you and me. If I'm going over the top, I got mid-year last year and just a ridiculous amount of exhaustion. My CEO walked into my office and handed me just an amazing, generous bonus check and said, we can't raise your pay, but you deserve this. This is what you're just going all crazy with. I think that there should be some type of structure that when Chris Bryant is blowing the freaking cover off the ball and everything like that, they do something where they go, next year we're going to tack on $2 million. Or why is it? I agree with you. It shouldn't be 7 years. It should be, we're bringing you up to the big show, kid. Here's a 1-year contract, and let's negotiate with your agent the 2-year options after that. Which either
and then they're able to manipulate service time too, which is another big thing. Because now, if I hold you out until if the season starts whatever March 31st, if I hold you out until May 15th, your whole season doesn't count as a full season of eligibility. So I get you for an extra year on top of that. Like
that's just
the manipulation.
That's just the stupidest thing. Period.
If we look at it from hindsight, right? The players' union signed this collective bargaining agreement that allowed all of this to happen.
Yep.
So I get it. I understand where you're coming from with you're tired of the arguing. My question is, do you believe that fans should boycott, like we were talking about earlier, the guy who said it on there, boycott for a week to see if it changes the game and see if it changes the mindset of baseball to make them listen to the fans?
No, because if you're boycotting, that means if you're saying that we're not going to go to the stadiums, that means that they came to an agreement and they're playing. That means that the stadiums are open. So what's the point of boycotting if they got to that point? I'm boycotting by saying I'm never watching the regular season MLB game again. And I'm telling you, Combs, I watch my sons who I raised through sports. And the one sport that they just don't really seem to give too much of a crap about is baseball. And they look at this stuff that they see on, and like my kids will text me, they're like, what's going on with this? This just seems weird. Like they're like, this is why baseball is weird. This is why I don't really care about it. I don't watch it. Like,
so you say you're never going to watch a regular season game again. You're going to watch postseason playoff baseball?
Yeah, I'll watch postseason playoff because I'm not boycotting the whole element of the sport as a whole. Like I said, I don't want to see this die. I don't want to see MLB die. I grew up playing it. I grew up loving it. I grew up having my fingers bent and busted in every way, playing catcher up through Little League All-Star and everything like that, and through high school, and heck, it carried into playing softball as an adult and everything. And to me, even though it was softball, I was thinking about baseball. My love for this game and the people around me that loved it, I don't want to see it die. I just am tired of these elements that come out in which I get it. Just like I talked about in the last segment, there's ownership, then there's teams, then there's players. Professional sports are built in a different entity than you and I have jobs. But at some point, all I want, and I keep going back to my firm, when we make decisions, the reason I chose them and why I still love it is that all of our principals and associates in the C-suite at some point in a meeting go, how does this affect our people? How is this going to affect our people? How is this going to make it better? Or are they actually going to see it this? If they see it this way, how do we communicate with them that it's actually going to be okay? How do we make them understand this? It's a full, like most of the meeting will turn into how it affects our people. MLB and the Players Association are not looking at it like, how does this affect the fans? They are not. It says, how does it affect me? And that's why I'm just tired of it. I'm just tired of it because it's how does it affect me? It happened in the 90s. It happened a little bit late after the 2000 season. It's happening again. And I'm just tired of it, man. And I thought it's because I'm getting old, but my own kids, they're just like, this makes no sense. Like, I just want to watch them play baseball. Like,
so let me ask you that, and I'm going to throw up in my mouth saying it. If we don't get baseball in 2022, Yeah, I can't even. But if we don't, is baseball a dead sport?
No, it's not a dead sport. Here, if you can, and I love NHL, but if you can continue to run a successful professional sports league in this country on a sport that is considered one of the top 4 sports in a sport that a lot of people in this country that don't live in the frozen north of this nation really actually care about, unless your teams win the championship. That's why the Tampa Bay Lightning fans are so crazy for them. But if Tampa Bay's not winning, the Lightning fans, you can go get tickets for them for $15 a pop right up against the glass. Why? Because they don't really care about it. But that's a professional sport. This sport has so much history. But this goes into the negotiation elements. It goes into Hall of Fame credentials. It goes into the unwritten rule things. It goes into old guys that are writers controlling certain standards of it because of the way of the history of the game, and we got to keep the integrity of it. Cut the shit out.
Yeah.
Just let the players play. Owners, get over yourselves. Give some money where you know it's demanded. Like you said, that's why the fans are going there. And at the end of the day, find a way to make this work as a professional sports league so that the players are better. But if they don't play this year, it's going to be a huge black eye.
Yeah.
But we saw it as a huge black eye in the 90s. And I know that there are individuals that didn't watch baseball at all, that I knew around my family at all for many, many years. But then when those balls started flying with McGuire and Sosa, all of a sudden they were turning those games on, and they just, I just want to know what's happening. And what will happen is at some point, something will happen that's exciting, that's energetic, and it'll get fans back into the game. But my fear is, will it die? No. Will it ever get back to second place, let alone first? I don't think so, because the NBA realized 10 years ago, we got to make this about the fans, even if it means stupid foul calls and idiotic, stupid things that old people are like, that's traveling.
19 steps.
19 steps, but they don't care. Want to know why? Because their stadiums are packed every single night. It's fan service. They make sure the focus is on the fans. The Oklahoma City Thunder out here sitting with like 19 wins or something, and yet all the people around here talk about a rookie who had 3 triple-doubles in a row, and then LeBron James talking about him and Presti, and that friggin' stadium is packed every single night with a 16, 17-win team. Why? Because they make it about them. And MLB will never get back up to second place, if not first, if they don't start making it about the fans, and they haven't done it for a long time.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And baseball may have predicated that, right? Because I don't know if you've heard the news. I know you're on like a social media hiatus, but if Major League Baseball doesn't come to an agreement again, right now they're not testing players for steroids.
I did see that. They're not testing for steroids.
I mean, they might have said, hey, you know what? We might have this lockout. We might need to hit some home runs again. Like, you know. And I don't know if you saw the interview last week, but I had Andrew Romine on the show.
Yep.
And I'm talking with Andrew Romine, and we had a great conversation. He talked about a lot of stuff off the air too. And one of the things that we started talking about was the steroid era and steroids in baseball and that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm of the mindset, hey, let them do whatever the hell they want. Andrew Romine kind of shed some light on that with, you know, how players in the game feel about it. You know, he feels like it's cheating. Anybody who's ever injected themselves don't belong in the Hall of Fame and all that stuff. I came back at him with, you know, how do you know these guys didn't juice? How do you know Cal Ripken wasn't juicing through the 3,000, however many games straight he played to get through the everyday ailments of playing a Major League Baseball season? And he's like, and he ended up by saying, you know what, I feel you on that. I understand that argument. And so I feel like baseball is kind of getting back to that. Well, you know, if we don't know and if we don't test, like who's going to ask? Nobody was asking until the Mitchell report came out. None of the fans cared. None of the writers cared.
And there's still
nobody cared.
There were still a ton of fans that didn't care. They still didn't care. There were tons of fans that said, it was. I loved it every single time. Barry Bonds put a freaking baseball into the
old head baseball,
and he still
writers.
did it. By the way, ever fail a steroid test? But I mean, most people buy the eye, but no one cared. That's why they went and watched. They want to see excitement. And when there are pitchers like Roger Clemens freaking steroid out of his mind, throwing bat pieces at Mike Piazza in the World Series. No one cared, but people remember that.
We
because
loved
they were
it.
out there doing it. And some players will say, hey, I stayed clean. I did it true. And I get that. I get the aspect of if other people are cheating, I'm not. But here's the thing. I bring it back to this all the time. And I'm a Patriots fan. So you knew I was going to somehow tie it back to this with this scenario. But I have heard Jerry Rice over and over and over again crap on the Patriots team and say there should not be any aspect of their championship should be allowed because of any type of scenario of possibility of cheating. And yet Jerry Rice is known as the greatest wide receiver that ever played the NFL. And he has admitted to using Stickum. And there's video of him using Stickum on his hands and gloves well after you weren't allowed to use it anymore. Yeah. How is that not a level of cheating? And you get to revel in the fact that you're a Super Bowl champion, greatest wide receiver of all time. And at some point, we all loved watching Jerry Rice. We loved to boo Jerry Rice. Some of us loved watching Tom Brady and the Patriots. People like you love to hate on Tom Brady and the Patriots. No matter what, it brought the fans to the seats. Yeah. Just got done watching the Falcons Patriots Super Bowl, and that had some of the highest ratings because of how amazing the comeback were. And people were like, I still want to see if the Patriots might make it interesting. And yet, if you don't find a way to service the fans and you just let it go, listen, there's probably guys juicing that we don't know. But you know what? The stands are full. People are excited. People are loving it. And at the end of the day, it's about the fans. Make it about the fans. The NBA has done it, and that's why they're number 2.
Mike Trout has a pass from MLB to use HGH because of a thyroid condition that he has.
Go out there and rake him. I don't care if he breaks the longest. And there will be people like, oh, he broke the longest hit home run ever because he used drugs. Good. I hope he breaks his own record again because guess what? When he goes up to the plate and he could do it when he's trying to break the home run record, everyone will watch. Everyone will watch. I remember watching Red Sox Rockies, I think. And it was like, we're taking you now to Mark McGwire. And they're like my grandmother who never watches baseball. And everyone in America got around their TVs.
Oh, it's the greatest summer in baseball history.
It was. Yeah. And everyone still talks about it. That's the only time my grandmother ever really got into baseball was that.
Yeah.
An old lady that was like, this seems really cool. Want to know why she thought it was cool? Because the fans were going crazy about it. Everyone talked about it. Everyone in the stands were going nuts. Just make it about the fans, please, for the love of God. I get you, both these sides. You need to take care of trying to take care of the players, take care of yourself as a team. But at the end of the day, turn around and realize all your butting heads, you're forgetting about the fans. You're forgetting about the kids.
And I want to get into some of the comments here because it's blowing up in the chat. We got some good conversation going on. Rule the Jungle says, so since UPS makes $1 billion a month, I should be making more money because they're smart with money. No, just because owners are smart with money and know the way around contracts, how is it our fault? Well, first of all, what you're forgetting is that your UPS is a global brand, right? And UPS, yes, they makes, $1 million a month, but you've got to look at their revenue. What is their revenue? What are they paying in vehicles? What are they paying in insurance? What are they paying in this? What are they paying in that? And all of that comes about, right? So $1 million a month, they're probably paying out. What would you think? Let's say, one UPS shop. We'll just talk about Rule the Jungle's UPS store. Okay, that UPS store in itself is probably paying out, let's say, about $100,000 in revenue for paying for vehicles, paying for employees, paying for insurance, and all the other stuff. So UPS is paying for all that. Now, $100,000 out of $1 million is a tenth of the money that they're spending, and that's typically what a usual business runs off of. But $3 billion, is what the New York Yankees made last year in revenue. That's what they generated, $3 billion. Their payroll was, I think it was like $180 million last year. $180 million.
Well, let's not make it out like the Yankees haven't taken advantage
of
the fact
right,
that
but that's what I'm saying.
Paid the most.
Right.
Like,
so $180 million of the $3 billion, that's way less than what we're talking about here. And that's what I'm getting at. They don't, I'm not saying they need to make, just because they generate all the revenue. I'm not saying that players should be making, a team that's making $1 billion should be paying out $750 million in payroll. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But what I am saying is that what you need to do, because you have revenue sharing in baseball as well. So the Tampa Bay Rays, who are in a small market, get some of the money from the New York Yankees that are in a big market. But then you look at a team like the Pittsburgh Pirates, who also get some of that money, and their payroll is $40 million this year. Yeah. $40 million. And they're not competitive. Nobody expects them to be. They are a terrible team. And they can't compete because they're only spending $40 million on their payroll. Force these teams to spend $100 million a season. There needs to be a payroll floor. There needs to be a competitive balance. Yes,
make a minimum, and don't let there be loopholes because of injuries and stuff like that. Make there be a minimum. And on the rule of the jungle thing, to his point, though, there are just as much a big corporate Fortune 100, 500 companies. They're in the exact same boat of these professional sports teams. They really are. But every employee has the right to step forward to their supervisor and say, hey, I'd like to talk about a pay raise, a salary raise. Doesn't mean you'll get it, but you have the right to do it. And a lot of employees who do that then get into a negotiation and they find a way to get a salary increase, because if you appreciate it, it'll happen. And that's it, is that good agents for baseball players that do that get their players more money. And there's an ability to do that, though, in that aspect. It's that minimum 7-year contract that I actually agree with you, Combs. It's just bad.
And Alpha Rob comes in here and says, and baseball needs to make teams spend money like the Pirates, Reds, Twins, or Royals. And Rule of the Jungle says they're all low market teams. They don't make that much money. I'm going to do you a favor, and we're going to do this live right on the air right now, Rule of the Jungle. I am going to look up what was the Pirates, because they're the biggest culprit of this. They do it year after year, and it's terrible because they have a beautiful stadium and a great fan base, and they don't spend any money. So I'm going to look up what was the Pirates' revenue income for 2021. The Pirates' payroll in 2021 was a little more than $54 million. The Pirates' revenue in 2021 was $1.2 billion.
But their operating income is negative $21 million.
So, operating it, how does that work? I don't know what the operating income is.
Going through on operations and your return on that. There's so much that has to do with costs and business elements with this stuff. But you're still correct that there's a rich owner pocketing a lot of money and not giving back to the team. It all just works through a minimum. That owner can still be rich and pocket some of the money, but we'll maybe bring in some more fans if you get them into a wild card chase. I remember last time Pittsburgh Pirates were in a wild card chase. They had what's-his-face there, who's now in the Phillies, and he was their bright young center fielder. Like, they were kind of exciting. People liked them, and they tuned in. They got a wild card, and that brings in more revenue. It's that element. I think if you force owners to make a minimum, then they'll decide to put more effort into it. It's almost like they can get away with, I don't have to pay as much into the players. I'll pocket the money. Yeah, we're going to suck. It's just estimated. It's just going to be assumed we're going to suck. And instead, if you do a minimum, and then you give the Billy Beans of the world a minimum where then maybe that goes even higher than what they're used to, and then their team is just competing for championships against teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers every year, that's exciting. The fans will be excited. So, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Again, it's not about the fans.
Alpha Rob says they can't compete with football, but if they do things right, they can overtake basketball. Look, I think, to me, you're always going to have guys like me, right? You're always going to have guys. To me, baseball will forever be the greatest sport out there. Like, to me, it's the most fun to watch. To me, it's the most fun to play. To me, it's my favorite. I absolutely love this game. Then you're always going to have people who love basketball, always going to have people who love football the same way that I love baseball. I don't think baseball can ever market itself in a way that they overtake basketball or football, because I don't think baseball is capable of making that change, and they show it year after year after year.
Yeah,
they are incapable of the change. There's no reason why. And maybe they started it this year, right, with Shohei Ohtani being on the cover, and then they went with like the cartoonish cover on him, trying to get into Japan and all that stuff.
Japan's already Japan probably brings in more revenue for MLB than the United States. They love
I agree.
You don't have to do that.
Right, and I agree.
They should. They should. That was a great marketing move.
They marketed a great player. Like, they marketed one of their top players. He's a great player. He's fun to watch. He's a phenomenal talent.
And so was Mike Trout.
But Mike Trout is a phenomenal talent. You've got guys like Bryce Harper, who's a phenomenal talent, even though I think he's a little overrated. You've got guys like Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo. You've got guys out there who are great talents that could be marketed better. I mean, how do you not capitalize on a John Lester and Anthony Rizzo story? Guys who overcome cancer to play your game. How are they not marketed better? It doesn't make any sense. Baseball's never done it. Baseball's never going to do it.
When NBA Alpha, when NBA hired Adam Silver, they hired Adam Silver with the full, to Combs' point, of saying, help us. We're tired. Like, we have too much. Like, they already had the foundation of urban lifestyle through Jordan brand sneakers and everything like that already secured, and yet they couldn't pass baseball and football. And they still can't pass football, but they couldn't get up there with them. And they said, Adam Silver, who's the weirdest looking dude on the face of the earth, by the way, and yet they knew he could do it. And they took their hands off and said, do whatever you need to do to get the fans more involved, to bring the fans into every stadium, even the Memphises and the OKCs and everything like that.
Yeah.
Do whatever you need to do. And all Adam Silver has done has made it completely about the fans. He's in here on draft day talking about interactive jerseys that are going to come out that you can change the name of and the number and everything like that. Like, it's all about the players while also creating the revenue. He wasn't sitting there to even talking as much about the players, but then they put the players on. I mean, the All-Star game's going on right now. It's Team Durant versus Team LeBron. It's not Eastern Conference versus Western Conference. And they're sitting there having a draft with Durant and LeBron. And after Harden demands a trade and goes to Philly, Durant's just pretty much shading him through the whole draft. That is fan interaction, and MLB refuses to do that. They don't want an Adam Silver running the league, and they don't want to let these freaking old curmudgeon writers that still bitch and moan because in 1940 this is the way the game was played. No one cares. Put Mark McGwire and put Sammy Sosa and God damn it, put Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame and put someone else running this league like an Adam Silver. Get the old curmudgeon writers out of the voting process. Let them write about the history, because the history of the game is still important, but get them out of the limelight. They're holding on to what this game was when it was number one. And until they do that, they'll never pass NBA, and they don't want to do it. They've shown it through this Hall of Fame voting process. They don't want to let go.
I joke around a lot saying baseball needs to hire me as its GM. And I know that I would never get that job, but baseball needs to hire someone like me for that job. Somebody who loves this game to their core.
That's what
they
Adam Silver
need
in the
that.
NBA was. They need a smart business person that loves the sport and knows how to make it work about the fans. That's it.
Yeah.
It says, I remember. That's why Bob Kraft, when he bought the Patriots and didn't send him to St. Louis, it didn't even let them go to Connecticut. He said, I was a fan. I went to games as a kid that I found out from people, like he was sitting like 3 rows away. He sat in those cold bleacher seats and was like, I'm a fan. I was a fan. I sat in those cold stands. I refuse to let this team go away from the Boston area. I love this team too much. I'm buying it. I'm keeping it here. And now it's considered a dynasty. And we need a GM in the MLB that will do that for the whole league, like Adam Silver did for NBA. But the league just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now I'm going to let you respond to this last comment before we go to a break.
Oh, here we go, baby.
I'm going to let you respond to it first, and I'll respond after you. Rule the Jungle says fans don't pay the bills.
Okay. There's a reason. There's an agreement standard that teams like the Tampa Bay Rays and the Kansas City Royals and the Minnesota Twins and teams like this are getting money from the New York Yankees and everything like that because they don't have fans. And so therefore, in order to pay the bills, they have to do it. They need that money. Yes, in the end, the owner has to pay it. But at the end of the day, the owners buy these teams to grow the revenue in their own pocket. They turn around and pay the bills, but they pay the bills physically, and it happens because the money that comes in. There's a reason why in Boston, and I know it's a big historical aspect, but Boston could have faltered just as much. And when the owners came in, they made it about the fans. They added the monster seats, the right field deck seats. They cleaned up Fenway Park. They said, we're not going to take this park away from you. They changed the way the center field seating aspects were. They cleaned it up. Why? Because they made it about the fans. So more fans went there, and then more fans paid more money for the tickets. And then all of a sudden, Boston, and then a lot more. And then all of a sudden, they were competing in payroll with the New York Yankees. That was not because the owners took over and said, we've got deep pockets. We're just going to go ahead and just pay our way there. They had to do things to impact the fans in order to make that where they could compete at that level, where they could pay the bills and be more competitive. And the teams that don't pay their bills need help from the teams that are doing that. That's not a good thing. OKC is an 18-win team in basketball. They have no problem paying their bills. Want to know why? Because that stadium is packed every single night it's now Paycom Arena because Chesapeake is an oil company. They went under pretty much. Paycom Arena, it's packed. Want to know why? You can't go to a Thunder game and not feel like it's about you. Period. Yeah. That's it. That's what they do.
Rule the Jungle, I don't know if you're still just, bitter and feisty over your Super Bowl loss. I don't know, what's going on. By the way, we'll talk about that in a little bit. I don't understand where you're coming from with this because fans are the reason why owners own teams, because they're not paying out of their own pockets. They're not using all their other projects to come and pay for what team they own. Where do you think the $12 per beer goes? Where do you think the money for the jersey sales and the hat sales and the ticket sales and going on field and buying VIP passes, buying luxury suites? Where do you think all that money goes? The owners do pay the bills. You're right, but they pay it with the fans' money.
Let's put it this way, Combs. Let's talk about the up and coming sport, which is esports. Esports being video games. I watch that stuff on YouTube with my kids all the time. And yet they all have their Twitch streams, and they're building a huge stadium in Houston for e-games tournaments and world championships. Why? So fans will come and put their butts in the seat and cheer and get excited, which then pays the ability to pay more of the bills. And they've said if fans don't show up for this thing we're building in Houston, it'll go under in 5 years. They literally said that. And these are rich people saying it. So
the kid from Fortnite, the 16-year-old kid last year for Fortnite who won the global Fortnite tournament, won $3 million.
Yep.
And $3 million they generated. Where do you think that revenue came from? Not from the makers of Fortnite. The revenue came from all the people that are on Fortnite like me who buy V-Bucks for their kids, V-Bucks for themselves, and we go out there and we buy new skins. We got to have this. We got to have that. That's where they generate all that money from.
And he won that tournament, and he won it going through a series in which people showed up live. Something that's made to be on a screen, on a computer, yet people went to the stadiums live to watch them sit in a seat up in the screen. And because of it, it was packed and blown out. Now next year's is going to be 4 million. Look at the World Series of Poker. Yeah. That used to be just a low key, like you went around. Once they let fans join around and sit there for 10, 12 hours and yet get pumped with every hand, those jackpots went up. The revenue went up. The earnings went up. And it wasn't because they just got it more on TV. That's part of it. But because they got it more on TV, fans were allowed to be there and be interactive. So no, I'm not writing the check to the electric company, but my asking and planted in the seat is why the owner does.
So Rule the Jungle, I love you, man. We appreciate all the feedback and support that you give
100%.
us. But you are incorrect with the fans don't pay the bills, man. Just incorrect with that statement. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about Rule the Jungle's Bengals.
Ooh.
We'll be right back.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I hear people say I cannot. I get off to the thought of proving everyone wrong, I won't stop to the top, so you better back off and get lost. I'ma stay loud, stay proud, never running out, never heading south. I'll be spreading out, call it word of mouth, can't put me down, I'll be getting loud. You can have your doubts, not what I'm about, have your fucking clout. It be raining now, I keep making sound, go another round, bitch I'm legend bound, can't stop me now. You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and I'll show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. 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 Anything negative, cause I just wanna hear it out your mouth, yeah. Give me fuel, it's a tool that I use to go ahead and run my fucking mouth, yeah. I take shots, I take loss, I make shots, I miss lots. That's how you get big box, you get yachts, you swing lots and pop off a big shot. I ain't done chasing, got big dreams, bigger things, impatient. Who's at the top think they need replacement? Who's at the top think I'm gonna erase them? Face it, I don't give up quick, I don't give up shit, I won't give up this. Cause I know that I want it, know that I'm on it, I'll make it, I promise. You don't wanna fuck with me, a slow burn like a disease. Just tell me that I can and show you things that you couldn't believe. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can. Just tell me that I can.
Man, that is one of my favorite. I think that actually is my favorite video that Buck's ever put together because of the song and the message in the background. Is because it's just like we're gonna keep going no matter what happens, no matter how much we struggle, no matter how much comes at us, no matter how much sometimes we're just like, is this really worth it? And we just keep going with this show because we're doing what we love to do, and we're trying to make something of it eventually. And we keep grinding, and I mean, we grind a lot. I mean, yeah, a lot of you guys don't see it. I know Drew sees a little bit of the back scenes because he's very active with us behind the scenes. But Soup Boss, I mean, we're constantly in the messenger. We're constantly saying, "Hey, can we do this? Can we do that? What can we do better to get more of an audience? What could we do to make this thing blow up?" And we're constantly coming up with ideas. We still don't have the answer. It's funny, when I had Andrew Romine on, him and Todd Hall are starting their own podcast. And he actually, after the show, he asked me, he's like, "I got a question for you." He's like, "What can I do to bring people in?" And I said, "Well, you're already a step ahead because you've got the Andrew Romine name, right? Like, you've already got followers, you've already got a fan base, you already got people who know who you are." I said, "But to be honest with you, Andrew, if I knew that answer, I would have already done it by now." I said, "You really just gotta, like, for us, it's a grind." And I told him what we do, and he's like, "Wow, holy crap." And so it really is. But we love you guys who join us in the chat all the time. Drew's always here. Alpha Rob's always here. Rule the Jungle is always here. We've got guests all the time that are with us constantly. Kevin Calaire. We've got Luke G, who's always with us. We got some more coming now that we're with Belly Up Sports too. I'm excited for what we're doing there with Belly Up Sports. Belly Up Sports, to me, I feel, is on a path to be the new and be better than a Barstool Sports, because of the trajectory that they are on and what they are doing.
Presidente's ears just went buzzing.
I hope it does. I hope it does, because I'll never forget when we asked him if we could be a part of Barstool Sports, and he said we weren't ready yet. So now, just like I am with when I play men's league softball, when I play against a team that either didn't want to pick me up or I used to play for and I went to play for a different team, I always play a lot better. So I hope he does come for us, because that just means we're winning.
I think, too, it's a huge testament to these guys that are on here every night, and I'm so thankful for it. And I don't want to demand that anyone has to do anything, but we'll know who blazed the trail to start for Man Hour, the Drews, the Alpha Robs, everyone that's been here. We love it. But if you love it so much, that's why we say it. We're not trying to be the generic, group saying it on YouTube, but there's a reason why people start to love things. Is because someone said, I love this place. I'm going to like it. Heck, I'm going to share it. I'm going to get someone in it. And it may not mean that every single time something happens from it, but get more people involved in this place, because you guys are blowing up the chat right now. But imagine if we had 50, 60 people in that chat just going nuts. I may have illegally broadcasted a show on here one time. We only got through the first half, but it was amazing. We had hundreds of people, and I was interacting with as much as I can. And I had people find my YouTube link, my channel, I guess, under my name. I'd never posted anything. They were like, man, when are you going to do that with live games and everything like that again? I was like, well, we got in trouble and everything, but come on and share it. And though I haven't gotten them, I keep going back and message like, come back, come get
Belly
on
Up Sports. Belly Up Sports is signing a contract right now to start being able to live stream games.
Oh, let's go, baby.
And so if they get that contract signed, we get the approval. I'm telling you right now, I will be all over. I'll quit my damn job. I'll be on here. I'll definitely be on here opening day. I'm planning maybe a 12-hour broadcast of just talking baseball for 12 hours. And I mean, I might have to turn my screen off because, weird things happen when baseball comes on for me. But, we'll be talking baseball. There's going to be lots of things we can do. And if we have the ability to live broadcast games and react to games and do that stuff, I mean, it's just going to blow it up that much more. And I see Alpha Rob says, I became a fan of the Man Hour after the first time I heard you guys. We appreciate it. Drew says the same thing. I know Javier, who was in the chat earlier, is no longer in the chat. He said he had a date tonight, so good luck, Javier, with that. But
hopefully you get just as excited as Combs has gotten about 3 times talking about nipple twisting and all their stuff. But hey,
yeah,
man, March 18th,
Javier,
Formula One's back. I could be on Belly Up Sport live with all the hundreds of other people that would want to talk about that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Javier said, he likes watching us because we're not like the other networks, and we actually tell the truth. So even though if it's a hard conversation, like we were talking about the Rooney Rule and stuff like that, 2 Caucasian males talking about the Rooney Rule probably doesn't get a whole ton of respect. But if people actually listen to the content,
listen, sir, I'm a cis. I'm a Caucasian cis male, as I've been told.
Are you like the Miami Dolphins? By the way, got away with that hire, and they said we did hire a minority. That guy is as white as you and me. I identify what? Maybe that's what the NFL needs. That's what owners need to do. Just look, I know you're white, but can you just identify like you're not?
I watched this TikTok this one time with a lady that took one of those like your heritage things, and she found out that she was like mainly European and she's African American, she's black in color, everything, and she's like, wow, I'm more European than anything else. Oh, there's no damn way I'm going to admit to that. I'm not going to say it because I'm black. Yeah. Like, why would I want to do that? That would look ridiculous. And that's what I thought when I saw that hire. I was like,
there's a mayor here in Aurora who is running for the governor of Illinois spot. And in one of his campaign ads, and he's taking a lot of heat for it now in Chicago, is that he's like, as I drive through my city, he's like, I see all these signs saying that Black Lives Matter. And I'm thinking to myself, all lives matter. And I'm telling you, there is people going insane about that. A black male mayor of Aurora saying that all lives matter, and it has been unbelievable. So sometimes you hear some things and you don't take them into context. You listen to things, and we actually have intelligent conversations about things. We don't take one side of things. That's why you and I get along so well, right? Super Bowl, like Buck is very far on his side of things, right? Like he thinks his side of things are right. Tori is on the other side of things where he thinks his side are right. And you and I kind of sit in the middle and we watch them two argue and bicker back and forth. And then we're like, well, actually, guys, this is the truth. And here's the truth. Whether you want to hear it or not, this is the truth.
You say that, and I just go, you both suck. You're idiots. Shut the hell up and let me tell you how it is here in the gray area.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we can have intelligent conversation, and that's what we do here. We have intelligent conversations. We tell you the truth. We tell you how it is. If you're stupid, we're going to tell you you're stupid. And if you're not, we're going to tell you you're not. That's just how it goes. That's what you get with us.
Our fans can tell us we're stupid, which is great.
Yeah, they do all the time. They do all the time.
By the way, NBA All-Star game is going to go to well over 200 points a team if this keeps going the way it is.
The NBA. Oh God, NBA All-Star game. God, is there? So let's add that was part of my rundown. But we've got. I haven't even looked at the rundown since we started. So let's go on that. NBA All-Star weekend is this weekend.
I tried giving you a break, man. I really did. I told you, like, just throw a couple things out there. You work so hard. Give yourself a break. You don't need it.
What's the worst All-Star game in sports? I think for me, it's now. Last year, if you had asked me this, I would have said it's probably basketball because to be honest with you, I forgot that the slam dunk competition and everything was last night. I didn't even watch it. But now I think it's the Pro Bowl. I mean, two-hand touch Pro Bowl is just
it's been, to me, the NFL Pro Bowl has been the worst for many years. And they used to let them play. And even when they let them play, though, a lot of the players still, like, I know everyone talks about like the Sean Taylor hit. In that game, the Sean Taylor hit, people forget there were guys that were just like cornerbacks that just were flat out not covering. He did that because he was pissed because players weren't playing. This is not like something where every play in that Pro Bowl game, there are people getting hit up and jacked all the time. The Pro Bowl's a joke, man. But the Pro Bowl, the Pro Bowl as a game is a joke, but the Pro Bowl as an experience, as we're looking right now, I'm looking at halftime and all the fan interaction experience, the Pro Bowl as an experience for fans is a heck of a lot more. That's more about what goes on at the event. That's like I was telling you about the F1 race Monaco that's driven through the streets.
Yeah.
It's not a highly competitive race because it's very hard to pass people, but it's all about the fans in that area and the amount of money it generates. That's an event for the fans. So the Pro Bowl is an event for those local fans. It's just I don't know if they found their identity, when they started not having it in Hawaii all the time. I think they're trying to make it more mainstream in the city, but the game's just a joke. No one watches it. No one cares. The biggest play of the Pro Bowl this year was Mac Jones like getting one finger touched, and then he ran 60 yards after the whistle and did the gritty in the end zone, and people loved that. That was the highlight. That's the highlight of the Pro Bowl.
Now, I know you say that this will never happen, and I've brought it up, and I agree with you. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. This
sounds like a banger of a segment we're about to go on right now.
Well, no, because I have always I've said before. I said I would like to see the two worst teams in the NFL, the two bottom seeds, go at it in place of the Pro Bowl to play for the number one draft pick. And I get I know what you say with that. I agree with you. It doesn't you're not going to get players to sign on for that. You're not going to get players to do it. You're never going to get people to put their body on the line for one draft pick. It's not going to happen. I get it. But would that be more entertaining than the Pro Bowl?
I mean, would it be more entertaining if, against all reality, both teams show up in full force and play super hard like it actually meant something? Sure. But then why would you do that with those two teams when instead, if all the superstars of the league showed up and played hard? What would you rather see? All the superstars playing hard with a chip on the shoulder? Like, could you imagine Peyton Manning and Tom Brady sitting on the opposite, even though they're both AFCs, being like, screw you, I'm going to prove to you, even though we both didn't make the Super Bowl, why I'm better than you. Hell, let players that went to the Super Bowl play in it the week after. Instead, you want what? You want the Detroit Lions and Jacksonville Jaguars to play super hard?
I was just going to say, it's the one game a year the Lions fans have to look forward to.
No, what's going to be better football? Come on. Like if the scenarios, if they do all these things, make it where the superstars are the ifs, not with no offense, because you're going to have Detroit fans, calm down. Jacksonville fans, calm down. You're going to have some players on the Pro Bowl too. It'll be okay. Those players get to play hard instead of I love how some players were talking about why that was not players. Some people were talking about why that's a great idea. Yet every single one of those people were bitching day in and day out every Thursday about, well, this is the crap we get. This is the crappy Thursday night football. What a piece of crap game we get. But let's put the two crappiest teams in a game at the end of the year, 5 weeks after they haven't ever played, and they're all tightened up and old and stiff and everything. And let's make them play each other super hard when they suck to start with to go up one draft pick. Yeah, but Thursday night football, the Giants play and the Washington football team sucks, which ended up being a great game. But no one.
I agree with you. Super going off, and I agree with you. It's never going to happen. I agree. It's a bad idea. But so we've got Go Lions here. Who says, "Getting myself together. Glad you were on." And then as he posts that, I started trashing Lions fans, said they only have one game to look forward to a year. But I do want to get to something that is going to, because we're catching up, right? We haven't been on since the Super Bowl happened. It was a great game. Sue Boss and I were going back and forth because I said because my take was before the Super Bowl that if they were stupid enough to let Jalen Ramsey go one-on-one with the Cincinnati wide receivers, he was going to get burnt deep. And that was just not me saying that Jalen Ramsey is going to cost them the Super Bowl. That's me saying Jalen Ramsey has a propensity for getting burnt deep. And he does. I mean, that's one of the knocks on him is that he gets burnt deep a lot, and the Bengals wide receivers can burn you deep. And so then he gets burned, and then obviously the one the play where
I told you if they let Ramsey go one-on-one, he was going to cost, which is a pull-out bed. You meant cost them the Super Bowl. You weren't making it out like if they do it, he's gonna get burned one-on-one.
So I worded it wrong. I didn't mean he was going
to cost them the game.
No,
he was. You know who cost them the game? Eli Apple cost Cincinnati the bleeping Super Bowl. He sucked. He gets a D-, but you're in the chat bitching about Jalen Ramsey.
Because
they let one bad play, then he got face masked and twisted. You're like, hey, he cost him the keyboard warrior.
I didn't mean so that's why I said I worded it wrong. I didn't mean that he caused the play calling of allowing Jalen Ramsey to go one-on-one is what cost them.
That's the sound of Combs backtracking.
No. I said that in the text. Read the text later on. Don't just read that one. The text later on.
The next one was, what was his excuse when Chase burnt him? That was your next one.
Okay, what's the one after that?
Two biggest plays. Both deep beat Ramsey. Make the excuses if you want to, which my excuse was his freaking face mask got ripped down. It pulled him aside. That was offensive pass interference and personal foul, but you're blaming the damn guy in the text. Stop backtracking. Beep.
I'm not backtracking. What I'm looking for the damn text now because I remember telling you.
Context, I think, freaking 4 texts later.
Yes, because that's what I'm talking about is that the game plan of allowing Ramsey to go one-on-one was a bad idea, and it was a bad idea. You can't let Ramsey go one-on-one with speedy wide receivers because he can't keep up. And that's my point about the game.
He got beat on one play, and I even said it because no one else brought it up. In the fourth quarter when the Bengals still had a chance, he tried to go for the pick, and he got beat by Chase. But we're talking about the couple plays, and the T. Higgins one, I refuse to count that. So 2 plays, one that no one even talks about in the fourth quarter, and the deep one. Neither one went for a touchdown. When you are a cornerback, you need to be shut down. And I'm not saying Jalen Ramsey's the best cornerback out there, but Chase's numbers as a rookie were ridiculous. He was destroying defenses in the AFC playoffs all freaking year. He was blowing up, and yet he had a couple big catches, couple catches. The success of a cornerback is not having it happen to you constantly. Ramsey has one touchdown go against him in that league. It was the biggest bullcrap moment besides the fourth quarter.
Well, the other one that nobody talks about is that and I know you don't like the FIU, but that last play where Burrows gets sacked, if Donald, if he's able to escape that pressure by Donald, if he's able to escape that pressure, Ramsey got beat again deep by Chase. Chase was downfield he beat Ramsey on that route. If he beats that, if Aaron Donald doesn't make that play, we're talking about the Bengals being Super Bowl champions.
With the deep safety. It was a deep cover too with a deep. That's why Ramsey went for the interception. Do you just see one thing and focus on it in one way?
How did he go for an interception? There was never a pass.
It wasn't his job in the corner in that situation to hook him man on his hip and go to the end zone. That's the job of the two deep safeties. His job is to stop the wide receiver up to 15 yards and then catch people going under. He got burned because it's not his job to run 60 yards up the field with him. That's the safety's job. It's not.
Why are you yelling at me
at all times? It's not solo man because I haven't been able to be on for a week with these stupid texts by you, and I needed to get this frustration out, Cole.
All right, so
and you're backing it up, beep beep, and then you're like, oh, but by the way, on that last play, no one wants to talk about. Yeah, no one wants to talk about how Ben Watson was wide open in the Super
Nobody
Bowl
wants to talk about how Aaron Donald was lined up off sides either.
Season. No one wants to talk about that, but we're going to talk about this.
Nobody wants to talk about Aaron Donald being lined up off sides either.
He wasn't. Jesus Christ.
He was.
What are you, a Bengals sympathizer now?
But he was lined up offside. Look, the Rams won that Super Bowl. I mean, Aaron Donald made a play when he absolutely needed to make a play. It was a phenomenal Super Bowl. I had a lot of fun watching it. I had a lot of fun dealing with people who didn't like the halftime show either because they're, for whatever reason. But
dude, my Tums and my Miralax came out, and I was bumping. I felt just as bad as 50 Cent when he was hanging upside down like a bat. I was just like, oh god damn, this is terrible watching it, but I love it. And I was like,
at first I thought they were making fun of him. I thought that they had like a short, because I thought maybe they were beefing or something, and they had like a short, fat lookalike. That dude blew up.
Yeah. But you know what happened? I threw out my back jumping off the couch because he wasn't announced. And I was like, yeah, find me in the club, getting me relaxed, sitting in the corner, eating my Tums.
Yeah.
I loved it, man. That was when Misdemeanor Elliott came out as a special guest, what, like 2 years ago? I lost my crap. My kids stopped talking to me for like a week. So I loved it. Loved it.
Yeah. My father-in-law was looking at me as I'm singing along with half the lyrics like, really right now?
90% what I listened to is death metal, but when it came to hip hop and rap growing up, that was it right there. Next to Biggie and P Diddy, that was it. Everything we heard right there. So I was pumped. But
yeah, absolutely.
To give just a real quick, I'm not going to yell at you or anything. I promise you. Just real quick, I think I'm just giving an opinion. The biggest issue that we saw didn't come from Ramsey. Hell, it didn't even come from Eli Apple. We said it, and it was why I was blown away that they got to the Super Bowl. Congrats to Cincinnati. But if you ever want to see them go back again, put a mother-trucking offensive line in front of that kid or he's going to die. I thought he tore his ACL again. He was getting killed.
It was close.
He's too good of a quarterback to sit there and the stat be like, what an amazing quarterback, because he got sacked 9 times against Tennessee, which I truly believe should have been 11, and he won the game. That shouldn't be the stat people are pumped with. You shouldn't be excited that you won a game because your quarterback helmet is buried into the ground. That's not the way the league is built to protect the quarterback by rules. Put an offensive line. They better draft and they better go free agents hardcore. If they go after another wide receiver or running back and you're a Bengals fan, be prepared. I don't know who the hell your backup is, but that kid's not going to live. I feel bad.
They do need to put an offensive line around him. I agree with you 100%. But somebody who did have an offensive line around him was Matt Stafford.
Yeah.
And I've been going back and forth, actually with the Lions fan, a guy who does a Lions podcast. He does it all the time. His name is Mitchell Brock. And I've been going back and forth with him about this subject. So Matt Stafford finally gets his ring, finally gets out of Detroit and goes and wins the Super Bowl.
Yep. My preseason pick, by the way, not against the Titans, but
Does Matthew Stafford, now that he has a ring, belong in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, I think Matthew Stafford, before his Super Bowl, had Hall of Fame potential already. You talk about a guy who was the epitome of loyalty to a way, no matter what happened, and was a driving force in being the captain. And you heard the halftime interview or pregame interview, I can't remember, with his wife, and she was like, it was a big thing for me to let him know it was okay to accept this trade because he's loyal to a fault. This is a guy that's the epitome of everything you want in a teammate, and the best uncut film segment that the NFL Films has ever put out, it's their longest one, was him getting his shoulder knocked out of place, going to the sideline, freaking out, and coming back in and throwing the game-winning touchdown. We live in a world of just statistics is the only thing that drive everything. We live in a fantasy world when it comes to football, fantasy points and everything. And he's still pretty good at that, but he was on a crap team, making them at least enjoyable to watch, and then got put on a great team. And yeah, the offensive line was amazing. He had great opportunities with great players. They went out and got OBJ, which I told everyone here, he was not dead. I don't care if he's a diva, he's a diva. But he had Cooper Kupp, who's my boy. I get it, but it's not like when the Patriots got Randy Moss that Tom Brady was all of a sudden not a Hall of Fame worthy quarterback just because he had more weapons to throw to. He was still amazing. Matthew Stafford, if was on any team, well, not any team, Jacksonville, if he was on the majority of teams that wasn't Detroit and how they handled their team personnel, the majority of NFL teams, he would have been to the playoffs more times. He would have been more successful, and he would have had an opportunity to already have a Hall of Fame caliber career before this Super Bowl.
So Mitchell Brock came at me and said, look, the guy has only been to one Pro Bowl. He's never been on an All-Pro. He's never done. And while all those things are true, he's also the fastest quarterback to 45,000 yards. He's also the fastest quarterback to, I think it was like 60,000 yards. Yep. And he's doing those things with those Detroit Lions teams. And they had some all right teams as he was coming up. I mean, he did get to play with Megatron. And so to me, he had some weapons, but he was in an organization that through the entire life of their organization has just been a losing organization. Yep. I mean, it's not one of those well-run organizations where you're going to go and you're going to win. So my comment to Mitchell Brock was, so if he's held out of the Hall of Fame, it's because he's a Detroit Lion, is what you were saying.
That shouldn't be the case.
He should have been in Pro Bowls, but he's also playing in an NFC at the time where you have Drew Brees. You're playing in an NFC at the time where you have Aaron Rodgers. You're playing in an NFC at the time where you have Russell Wilson. You're playing. You have guys that are on organizations that are constantly going and competing for championships. So it's not. Him not going to Pro Bowls, him not being an All-Pro isn't a snub on him. It's a fact that these other quarterbacks are putting up similar type numbers, but they're winning football games because they're in a better organization. They're in a better spot to be there. And then he leaves Detroit and goes on to the Rams and wins a Super Bowl, something that Jared Goff was taking this team to playoffs and Super Bowls when he was their quarterback, goes to Detroit and can only win 3 games. So, to me, Matt Stafford is a no-doubt Hall of Famer. I've loved this kid since his rookie year when he separated his shoulder and went back in for that 4th down play to throw the touchdown pass. This kid is tough as nails. He is a badass quarterback. I love Matt Stafford. I was extremely happy for Matthew Stafford to win this Super Bowl. This is one of the fewest Super Bowls that I've ever watched where I didn't care who won. I just want to see a good game because I would have been happy for either side. I would have been happy for all the Bengals fans if they won, but I was extremely happy for guys like Aaron Donald. I was extremely happy for Cooper Kupp, who his story is amazing. If you don't know Cooper Kupp's story, go out there and read Cooper Kupp's story. It was just amazing to read, and he is somebody you can absolutely root for. But then Matt Stafford, how you don't root for Matt Stafford is beyond me. So I, as a Bears fan, was out actively happy for Matt Stafford. It was good to see that guy win a Super Bowl. How you don't root for somebody like that?
My easiest example to this aspect with the Hall of Fame conversation when people start bringing up stats and everything like that, I stop them and I say, there are stats that combat those. And you brought them up, the yardage element and stuff like that. We're also talking about Pro Bowls, which are fan interaction. And let's be honest, when you said Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers are out there, Matthew Stafford's electrifying, but he's playing for a team that's not good. It is a Hall of Fame is based on you as an individual. When you're on a team of 51 other players and 40 of them just can't, 45 of them just can't compete at as much of a level because of the way they're constructed, that's not on the good players. And I give this example all the time. There is no one I know that knows the game of football that in any way, shape, or form would say that Joe Thomas, the longtime center for the Cleveland Browns, is not a Hall of Famer. And he stayed with Cleveland on a hellacious team that never won, that never went to the playoffs while he was on the team until the year after that he retired. And yet everyone would say, of course he is. He's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. He's Hall of Fame. Why is it then that a quarterback has to have Pro Bowls, has to have Super Bowls in order to go to the Hall of Fame? The Hall of Fame is not most successful. It's the Hall of Fame, meaning those that give everything that is the reflection of why we love the sport. And Matthew Stafford is the complete reflection of that. I don't know if anyone while he played in Detroit ever thought like, God, that Matthew Stafford guy sucks. No one thought that. Get out of here. But he was downsized because he played on a team that wasn't as good as the Seahawks and the Packers and the Saints and the other amazing NFC teams. They just weren't. But that didn't mean he sucked.
Yeah. If Patrick Mahomes isn't playing on a Kansas City Chiefs team that's absolutely loaded and doesn't go to 4 straight AFC championships and doesn't go to 2 Super Bowls in 4 years, are we still talking about Patty Mahomes as being the next Tom Brady, like a lot of people stupidly are arguing? We're not talking about stuff like that, but they're talking about it because he's winning. So if he goes to an organization like the Detroit Lions, are all of a sudden, does that make him a worse quarterback? No, it puts him in a worse situation. And that's where, to me, Matt Stafford, you can't fault him for being a Detroit Lion. It's where he got drafted. It's where he played. And he put up numbers with those teams. He put up numbers with some sorry-ass wide receiving cores.
I was going to say, we talk about Tom Brady's grocery store people, and people think about Wes Welker and Julian Edelman. Those were made because of Tom Brady in that aspect. But really, because they won the championships, if the Patriots were just a 500 team and barely made the playoffs, but Brady was slinging it, people would never know about Julian Edelman and Wes Welker nationally. It's because they got put on a national scale because of the playoffs. But he got to play with Randy Moss, never even won a Super Bowl with Randy Moss, one of, if not the greatest wide receivers of all time. And Matthew Stafford, if some people go, well, he played with Calvin Johnson. Well, who else? Who else? Yeah, Tom Brady played with Randy Moss. Who else did Matthew Stafford play with? And he was slinging it to guys, getting them yards and getting them probably bonuses in their checks and from their contracts that no one ever knew about because they never got into the playoffs. But if the Lions ever made it to the playoffs, you know damn well that Cardell Smith Jr. or whoever the hell he was throwing to that no one knows about, people would know his name because they got put on a national scale. It's not fair to Matthew Stafford to just say, well, he doesn't have that many Pro Bowls, so he's not in the Super Bowl. Since when are the Pro Bowls the indicative of you getting in the Hall of Fame? It makes no sense.
And when he had Calvin Johnson, when he had Golden Tate, I mean, those teams were going to playoffs year after year, and they were good, and they were putting up numbers. But then he had the wide receiving core most recently that he had, which was, I'm trying to think, I think it was Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones, and then Danny Amendola when he was like 95 coming out of the Patriots organization. And he was still putting up those same numbers. And let's just face it, look, as good of a wide receiver, and he's a good wide receiver. He's not a great wide receiver, as Kenny Golladay is. I think Marvin Jones is a decent wide receiver as well. And Danny Amendola is he's a nice piece to have in the slot.
Hey, he's a role player.
Right, but to be putting up the numbers you're putting up with, it was just, to me, it's mind-boggling to think that he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. So one last thing I want to get to that I wanted to touch on.
Real quick, if you want to make a debate if or not, the perfect candidate for that is Eli Manning. And people say his 2 Super Bowls are the reason for it. But if you take them away, what is it? And I sit here and go, Matthew Stafford now has 1 less Super Bowl and to me has a far more successful overall career element than Eli Manning. But Eli Manning gets to go to a lot of people as a Hall of Fame player, but Matthew Stafford, it makes no sense. It makes no sense.
So one of the last ones I want to get down to, and I can't think of her name right now, but we have the Russian figure skater who gets to skate after having a banned substance found, 15 years old, out of Russia, and she gets to skate. And there's all this uproar. And now Sha'Carri Richardson has come out and said, you know, how does she get to play or how does she get to skate, but I couldn't run? It's because look at the color of her skin and look at the color of my skin. Now, one of the things I want to touch on is two things here, completely different scenarios, right? Sha'Carri Richardson did something that, while it's legal and while I think that she deserved to still run because I don't have a problem with it, she knew, and she even admitted that she knew that it was illegal and that she was going to pop on it. This other girl out of Russia is 15 years old. And while I agree, she probably knows what's going into her system, she is surrounded by an adult supporting cast. And that adult supporting cast is supposed to lead her and guide her into being what she can be, being the best that she can be. And when you've got a 15-year-old girl who is still being told by these adults, hey, it's okay, just go ahead and do it anyway, they're going to succumb to that pressure. That's what they're going to do. Now, I don't believe she should have been able to skate. I disagree with the ruling that said, hey, you get to participate in this because whether you knew it or not, yes, it's a sad story that you don't get to participate in the Olympics now and you're only 15, and I don't necessarily blame you for what you did, but it was still illegal. And your support system failed you, and the adults around you failed you. And whoever is around you, I really hope for everything that is sacred about the Olympics, I really hope that this young girl gets a new trainer, gets new coaches, gets whoever is around her that is telling her to do this stuff. I hope she completely changes all of that. But I don't believe that this is something that can be spun Sha'Carri Richardson's way in the argument that she's trying to make for it, because she was an adult who chose to do something that she felt helps her in her, it was her, I forget how she worded it, but I know somebody in her family had died, and it was something that just helped her deal with it and helped her cope, was smoking a little bit of weed. And look, I'm with it. There's a reason why it's becoming legal all around the world. Well, mostly so that they can tax it now and make money off of it. But there's a reason why it's becoming legal is because
30 years ago.
Yeah, because there's a lot of medicinal value to it as well. So I understand that point of it, but you were still an adult who chose to break a rule, and it's a lot different than a 15-year-old girl who was forced to break a rule.
If I go into a store and knowingly steal, I'm to face the consequences. If I teach my children to steal and say, don't worry about it, and my 15-year-old son goes in and steals, and they find out that I'm the reason behind it, but the action was still by my 15-year-old son, will my 15-year-old son be allowed back in that store?
I don't know if he'd be allowed back in that store, but I do believe that you would be the one that'd be facing the legal action.
I'd be facing legal action. He or she wouldn't be allowed back in the store.
Yeah,
just like
and I agree with that. The skater shouldn't have been allowed to skate.
And that's what it comes down to with me. I don't think it's an. I don't know what it was. I don't know. I think it is more of that aspect of trying to like give the element of. It's kind of almost like the judicial system where it's true. It depends on what type of mood you catch a judge in the American judicial system. They'll give breaks sometimes on one day, next day not be in the best mood, and they're holding everyone to such a higher standard. And it almost seems like the IOC, that's almost the same thing in this scenario. To me, hold them both accountable. They either both are allowed to participate, or they both shouldn't have been allowed to participate, which I agree with you. She shouldn't have been. And then, yeah, if that's the case and you find out that it was because she's 15 and she's got people saying you do this, especially Russia standards, trust me. Like,
yeah, I know.
You watch me stuff like you don't tell them no. But once it's exposed to light and you can get her around more of a safety net and everything, then you say, okay, you're allowed to compete again in 4 years or 6 years or whatever the case. Like, there's got to be something, and you help her because she's 15. In the grown adult, you go the same thing. Okay, you can 4 years if you prove that you're clean and you're not doing that again, or you're not breaking rules, because you put the responsibility still on the adult. And even though she's a 15-year-old kid, she's still a 15-year-old kid that still did something wrong. And she's doing it because she was told to do it. But it doesn't matter. It's an aspect. This isn't the MLB talk. We say, well, just let them all juice. This is something where the standards of the Olympic Committee is very tight. They hold it tight. So when you catch them and they're in the wrong, don't throw this how you feel about them and where they're like. You're either both allowed to compete or they're not. And I think she has the right, though, to at least say that it's BS. And I think you and I at least agree on that the skater shouldn't have skated.
Yeah, no, I 110% agree with that. But we are out of time. We are at that 2 hour mark. Dude, we could do this for 6 hours if we wanted to. We really could. But anyway,
how did that rundown go? That was well worth it. Huh?
We said out like about 15 things we could talk about. So we could, like I said, we could do this for like 6 hours. But we are at the end of our time. Soup Boss is going to be back with us later this week, I believe. Next week. All right. Perfect. So, Soup Boss, always a pleasure, man. Man Hour Nation, rise up.